So I was just saying to Mike, I think we should talk first-time home buyers before we do this last bit of video for today. So first-time home buyers, name a first-time home buyer you know.
Chris and Amanda.
Chris and Amanda. What's their scenario? What are they looking at? You know, how do you think it's different for them buying a home today compared to when you went to buy a home? When you were a first-time home buyer back in 1847?
1999. I guess the biggest thing is I was able to buy my home for less than 1 year's salary. And just, that's the biggest thing. Price.
Yeah.
You know, I think the interest rate was kind of high, but
that sounds crazy low to me. Less than 1 year's salary.
I was making about $200,000 a year, and I bought a house that was $158,000, and it was plenty of house for me. I qualified for $500,000. I didn't feel like I needed a $500,000 house.
Yeah, in Texas, so good priced houses.
Yeah,
property taxes were not a thing.
Yeah, I think our property tax in Shady Hollow was 1.68.
Okay, so it's still pretty high back
Yeah.
then. 1.68 is a lot compared to Colorado's 1 now or something.
Yeah, but they also have an income tax. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that's
they don't have freedom like us.
If you drill down, the biggest difference is the amount of money you're paying into interest every month.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. So interest rates being 6%, but you get the price of the home. We saw it when, not to go political, but COVID happened, rates dropped, property prices went through the roof. We're seeing home values go through the roof in Texas and stuff, which most homeowners, we don't care about that. I don't get excited that my house went up in value. I go, well, that sucks, because part of the thing living in Texas is you should be able to get a nice big house without spending too much money. Now, there's lots of areas where you still can get a lot of home for $300,000, $400,000, but even that's considered a big number to a lot of people. But 300 or 400. All right, so the prices have gone up. The income should have, but hasn't necessarily. So first-time home buyers are facing a bit of a struggle.
Here's an example. When my kids started at Baranoff, Shady Hollow, I'll bet you 90% of the families were stay-at-home moms.
Yeah.
And now, if you're moving into Shady Hollow, both those parents are working like crazy to pay that.
Yeah.
Off. And it changes changes things.
It does. And it's still a great neighborhood, so I always want to be honest when I'm talking here. Same time, I love home ownership. I go and I'll look at this house that's for sale. I'm like, there's no way that's a $640,000 house. It's a $400,000 house all day long.
Yeah.
But I'm also the guy who goes to the supermarket and goes, there's no way that steak's $70,
Yeah.
So, the values are increasing all around. So without me just whinging about prices so much, it's about how to get those first-time home buyers into homes. And one of the great ways to do that, I think, probably at the moment, I'm just thinking is, we're talking about sellers credits, using sellers credits to buy people's rates down. That's a tool you can use.
How does that work? How much does it cost? Suppose you're looking at a $400,000 loan, and you've got $12,000, 3%. Is that right? How much can you buy down a loan for the life of the loan with $12,000?
Oh, with $12,000? I mean, if I brought my laptop out now, I'd show you some live pricing. But let me tell you a little bit about how you price a loan.
Yeah.
This might be 2 videos, first-time home buyer. But like most things out there, there's databases now of the lenders, or there's a website you can go to. So you want to get insurance out there, you can go to such and such insurance marketplace, and you'll get to see all the products that are out there. Same thing with lenders or with mortgages. There's There's websites that brokers and etc. have access to, and all the lenders will list their rates. Now, some of those rates will be promotional rates, some of them won't be true, some of them will be hard to qualify for, but there's a bunch of different lenders out there and they have their rates. So we'll go out and we'll shop the rates to look for the best rate that's out there for you. Then you'll look at what's called a par rate. And a par rate is a rate that has no cost. So that's when they talk about having a good credit score. If you've got a better credit score and you've got good income, you're going to qualify for a better interest rate. There was a whole bunch of stuff in the news a while back that there was a change happening and it didn't matter about your credit scores. People with lower credit scores were going to get better rates. It wasn't true. They were just reducing the LLPAs, the loan level price adjustments. They were cutting them back. So they weren't penalizing people with low credit scores as much. You know, credit scores are the system we have, but I've worked with a lot of first responders, a lot of nurses. You know, I don't want to sound sexist here, but a lot of mums and stuff whose credit was ruined by some jerk ex-husband or ex-boyfriend. It's more typically than the other way around. I'm just gonna say it, you know. And they're working as a $24 an hour nurse, all sorts of hours, raising a kid, and their credit score's not good because during COVID they had to stop working for a bit and their credit score got knocked around. So quite rightly, they came up with some programs to reduce the negative impacts of the LLPAs. So it just helped them out a little bit. People with good credit scores still got better deals. So I know there was a lot of detail there, but everybody asks, you know, what's the rate? The rate depends on your credit score, it depends on your income, and it depends on how much you're wanting to borrow. So when you're looking at a rate sheet, you can buy down the rate depending on the cost of the home. That's going to impact it. But just to give you an answer of some form of answer, is like for $3,000, $4,000, you might be able to buy the rate down 1%. Now,
For the life of the loan?
For the life of the loan.
$3,000 now. And I'd love to have a spreadsheet and show how much.
I'm thinking of like a $300,000 loan.
Still, the amount of money that $3,000 now is saving you is massive.
Unless you're planning on refinancing in the next. So say right now where we think rates are probably going to come down further. You know, 6 months ago it was like definitely coming down further. Now we're like, it's more than likely going to come down further. So say you spend $3,000 to buy your rate down, and it saves you $180 a month. For, I should say 200 to keep the maths easy, but it saves you $200 a month, and it costs you $3,000. So you have to keep that loan for 10 times 180 is 1,800, another 5 times 180, you know, so you've got to keep it for maybe 17 months before you break even. Now, often you'll be looking at, and you rolled your eyes before quite rightly, 1% might cost you more. It might cost $5,000. You know, I should bring up a rate sheet to do it.
If you're going to stay in the house.
But the gist of it is the cost of the rate buy down has to make sense over how long you're going to keep that loan. Now, most people at the moment are more than likely going to refinance in the next 18 months. A lot of my clients that bought with me 2 years ago, 18 months ago, are looking at refinancing now. We only need a little bit more rate improvement and then it really makes sense. So spending $5,000 up front to buy your rate down doesn't always make sense unless you're using seller's credits, because then you're not paying your own money to do that. So that brings us into like structuring, taking a look with the client and going, right, you know, we can buy your rate down to this, but what do you think is going to happen? Do you think rates are going to improve, or do you think they're going to get worse? You know, how long do you think you're going to keep that loan? So at the moment, most of the time I'll find out what the client wants, where do they need their monthly payment to be, and you never want to advise someone, hey, you should buy it. You know, it doesn't matter that the rate's this right now because rates are going to improve. Because what if they don't? I always advise someone the same way I'd want someone advising my kid or my mom, you know, like, And there's good because there's a lot of rules in place to make sure this happens. But, you know, firstly, you have to qualify on what the rate is. So you hear about temporary buy downs, 2-1 buy downs, 3-1 buy. Great programs out there, and they make sense in certain situations. But the good thing about them is that you qualify based on what the rate goes back to. So even if the good thing with a permanent buy down is, you know, the rate's down, you know what your payment's going to be. But with a temporary buy down, it's going to eventually bounce back to what the rate was when you signed up. So you're kind of taking a bet that rates are going to improve. It's a pretty safe bet at the moment, but you know, what if it goes up? So the good thing is it has to make sense on the. You qualify based on what the rate goes back to, so that people don't end up in trouble. That was a bit of a long answer.
That's why there's editing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Exactly, or even if we'd use that one. But
next time we need to, when other people shoot videos here, and it happens a lot, they do this room, that room, that room, that room, and they move around.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be good on the Pac-Man table and stuff like that. And I think my energies, you know, but the rate buy downs, you know, just between you and me, you know, you're right, probably like to buy 1% down, it's probably like $7 or $8 grand. So I was like, after that, I was like, wait a sec, you know, to buy a quarter off can cost $1,500, you know.
Yeah.
To buy 0.5% is like $3 grand, you know.
But even
depending on the loan amount. So once you start going $6 grand, and then you look at what a percent saves you,
yeah,
it's often not that much because the way loans are built, because you pay back so little of the principal in the first couple of years, and the way they're designed, it's like, oh man, I just took 1% off and I saved $70 a month. So it's cost me $6 grand. You're like $70 over $6 grand. It's a long time before it breaks even. So that's why most of my clients at the moment, I'm not advising them to buy the rate down too much, unless you've got a plethora, or you've got a abundance of sellers credits. Like I've got 6% in sellers credits. My freaking title fees are this much. I've got more credits than I know what to do with. Then yeah, you throw more at the rate, you know. But if you're like going to have to pay your other closing costs and things like that, like, you know, I wouldn't be taking too much money out of my own pocket to buy the rate down right now. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
I need a nap now.
Yeah, me too.
What time is it? I do. Yeah, send it to